level of suffering in Gaza has been unimaginable.
Israel's conduct has been deliberately calculated to cause widespread hunger, dehydration, and starvation. Israel's campaign has pushed Gazans to the brink of famine. A pattern of conduct and related intention that justifies a plausible claim of genocidal acts.
The absence of peace and lack of accountability making a mockery of the so-called international order. South Africa is trying to change that. Alleging that Israel is committing genocide, it took Israel to the International Court of Justice. Minister of Justice Ronald Lamola stands tall, defending Palestinian victims and urging an end to impunity for Israel. But here in South Africa, sky-high crime and shockingly low conviction rates have made many South Africans lose faith in the ruling party ahead of a crucial election. And Lamola's controversial remission of former President Jacob Zuma's prison sentence last year has opened the door to potential volatility. Accused of fomenting riots across the country in 2021, Zuma is now back and running in the election. I'll ask Ronald Lamola if South Africa also stands for justice at home as well as abroad. This is the InnerView. Minister Lamola, how are you doing?
Very well. Yourself?
Good.
Do you still like South Africa?
I love South Africa. My family's here, you know.
That's good.
Is South Africa a just country?
Very.
You know, it would be a dereliction of my duty not to ask you about Jacob Zuma. Because he fell, and he seems to have got up again. Zuma must fall, but he got up again. And there was a minister of justice who signed the order for the remission of his sentence. Was that a mistake?
No, it was not a mistake. Remission of sentence, it's an instrument available to the state to use from time to time as part of easing congestion in our facilities, prisons, which we do from time to time. There are other measures that we use, which also include remission. And if you remember at the time, we just had a prison that had just banned 3,000 bed space that with a stroke of fire just went past, which we needed space. So it's a decision that had to be made in terms of easing
For many other South Africans, those thousands of other prisoners, sure, but for Jacob Zuma, with the potential that they feel, potential of trouble that they feel he can cause, they think, well, maybe it backfired. Maybe releasing him to stop him from being a rallying call for his supporters might have backfired, because 1 year later now he might be in parliament and his party is polling at 13% ahead of an election. Do you feel that at all?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at the context of the job I do, every day I release prisoners for whatever reason, medical parole.
But not all of them are Jacob Zuma.
Yes, that's true. But it's my job. Medical parole, remission, as you say. Others get released. Those prisoners, some of them commit offenses as they get out of prison. Some very heinous, and the intention is that they must get out rehabilitated, which is the intention of our prison system. But it does happen, 1 in a million, and it's one too many. So there will be instances where when you have released prisoners, certain things might happen. And I think the case of former President Zuma is one of those. And it is not a call for regret, but the justice system is aimed to rehabilitate offenders, is aimed to create an environment in which they can stay. And it was done in that context to ease the congestion. The role that he then went to play outside the system in politics and so forth, he will have anyway done it, whether we released him with remission or not. What will have stopped him?
That same poll that polled them at 13%, which dropped at the time of the news that he was allowed to contest in the elections, also said the ANC is at 37%. Does that worry you?
Yeah, it does worry us, the poll. But we believe that we still stand in a very good state and position. We will be able to weather through the storms and put a good fight to win the elections.
What gives you that confidence?
Because of the track record that we have. The 30 years of democracy, we have delivered in terms of a number of social programs, water provision, electricity, and so forth. The economy, we handled the COVID situation amongst the best in the world. And we do not, we are not naive to the reality that there are challenges. As we speak, the water challenges that are emerging in Joburg, in Devon, in many parts of the country, some parts of the country. The situation, load shedding that we had in the past, which is now stabilized, and we are emerging out of that difficulty, including the economy that is recovering.
So why do you think so few South Africans have that faith in the ANC when you look at the trajectory going from 60, 55, 50, polling under 40 as we saw in that latest poll?
Yeah, it's because of the challenges that we've gone through.
But doesn't that mean the track record is one of decline, not improvement?
No, not at all. There have been challenges, and that's what I want to speak to, that those challenges, you will remember, most of them emerge out of the democratic project that was derailed or taken off its trail during the years of state capture.
Under Jacob Zuma?
Yes.
Who's now running for parliament?
Yes.
Who you released?
Yes.
So that's why I ask about regret.
Yeah, no, we have got no regret. It is that project of state capture that derailed this, the challenges that we had. And if you go look at the graph up until 2018 of the state, it was going up. And unfortunately, in that period of state capture, a lot of SOEs, a lot of things went wrong, which then impacted service delivery, impacted the economy. But we are now on an upward trajectory. From Stats SA latest released reports, it shows that we are recovering in the economy, we are recovering on employment, and we're also recovering even on the states with regards to electricity. We are now beginning to stabilize the situation. So we are ready to go into these elections to present what we believe is now a corner that has turned.
It seems to be unlikely that you'll get the 50.01 to get a majority. And this is why I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, because you're a minister, but you're also an ANC member, and it's election season, right? So we can talk about the party and the state as well. And so there's questions about who would you go into a coalition with. So as things stand, trying to work the numbers, it seems very hard for the opposition to get to 50%. That's true. When you look at say if you take DA 25 and their coalition, those who are already with them trying to rescue South Africa, somebody might have to, based on the polls, work with the EFF or the MK party, Jacob Zuma's party. So Julius Malema's party or Jacob Zuma's party. What's going on with the conversation? Are you, as the ANC, discussing who you would go into alliance with?
At this stage, as the ANC, we're going to the elections to win. That is what we are campaigning for.
But that would be ignoring all the polls.
No, we're not ignoring, and nor are we oblivious. Our program is very clear. We are going in to win the elections. We are campaigning. That is what we're going to do. Obviously, there will be conversations in relations to any other political party that post the elections, depending on the outcomes of the elections, what becomes the scenarios, which we will only cross that bridge at that time.
Is there anyone you won't work with, that you can say outright you won't work with?
As you will remember from our document of the NEC with regards to coalitions, we said we are not going to declare that we are going to work with this one, neither will declare that we are not going to work at all with this one, but we will look at the principles and the values and also the outcomes of the elections, what makes sense to take us forward at that particular time.
I'm going to circle back and we'll journey back to the domestic issues, but I want to talk about South Africa in the international standing now. Been quite popular recently. Some iconic images, especially in The Hague. Tell me, what was the roots of the ICJ complaint and the charge against Israel? Tell me the beginnings of it all. We know how it played out so far, but where did it come from?
Yeah, the beginning of it all, the reason we decided to initiate it is because you will remember that after the 7th of October, which the atrocities of the 7th of October, which are regrettable and which we condemned, there was an Israel offensive, which was moving at an alarming rate, maiming innocent children, destruction of civilian infrastructure, maiming of innocent women in particular, but it had a unique kind of character, particularly on kids and children. And we are a signatory to the Genocide Convention. This, in our face, was a clear textbook case of a genocide. And we then said, with the previous genocides, we regretted as a country. Our founding president, Mandela, regretted that situation in Rwanda, that it happened during the time of our democratic transition in 1994, and we did not really play an active role to protect the people of Rwanda from this. And we said, this is happening in front of the eyes of everyone in the world and the globe. We have a duty to act to prevent it. And it is for that reason that we initiated the processes to The Hague. We knew that Israel is a state that has enjoyed impunity for a long time. And we felt that this could be the turning point. And it might also play into the collective conscience of the global community to pause and say, something is really happening that needs the world's attention. And I believe we achieved that objective.
The Colombians, the Irish, all signaling intervention, which means joining you at the ICJ. Do you feel that the lawsuit has given South Africa a strong moral authority again in the world, something that maybe it had around 94 and the world had forgotten about for a while, and it's now put you in a position where you can talk from a strong moral position?
Yes, and as you are aware, we have always been in the space, and we have, even our former President Mandela has been very clear about the situation in Palestine, that South Africa is not free until Palestine is free. But this situation warranted an urgent type of intervention. And I do believe that indeed it has brought us back into the table on resetting the global human rights, on the table to reset international rule of law, on the table to be part of the institutions that must re-engineer the space of the protection of the vulnerable groups across the globe. And as you are aware, even the current human rights architecture, the signing of the UN conventions on people's rights and so forth, was also developed out of the difficulties we had with apartheid as a country. That was the initial shaping at the UN, because the UN did not have any convention to deal even with these issues. So this matter has now brought it on the table, and we're glad that also the UN is playing that important role to anchor this route in terms of the ceasefire, and the global community is beginning to play its role also to exert the necessary pressure to the state of Israel. And I believe that this matter is the beginning of the end of Israel impunity.
What about the impunity of Omar al-Bashir and Vladimir Putin? When this government was invited to participate in international justice, what about the victims of al-Bashir in Sudan and Putin's victims in Ukraine? Why are those situations different to Palestine?
Yeah, as you are aware, our president has been to Ukraine, has been to Russia. He has initiated engagements to find a solution in both countries.
But that's what other people say about Palestine, Israel. They say both sides.
No,
we appeal to both sides.
There's a difference, and
What's
the difference was that here there was a genocide unfolding in front of everyone. There is indeed a war happening in Ukraine, which we accept, and that is why the president has went there with the clear intentions to intervene. With the Palestinian-Israel situation, there has been many interventions, and all those interventions had not yielded the necessary interventions or ceasefire that was needed in the situation that was unfolding. Even in Russia and Ukraine, there has been instances of some form of ceasefire for food, for transport, for that and that. In this situation, the situation was escalating at an alarming pace and rate.
So you feel they're different? You feel they're different?
Yes.
You feel they're qualitatively different?
So yeah, at an alarming rate, and people were being killed, maimed in the front of everyone. Right. So there was a need to take it into outside. Obviously, the UN had many resolutions also, which could not really intervene in the situation. So we then realized that we may need a forum where, particularly because of also the high level of Israel state propaganda, which was showing that what has been raised by the group was not true. There was no genocide happening there and so forth. So we needed a forum where the plausibility of this genocide could be tested. And
if the court comes back and says no genocide, would you accept that?
That is a different discussion than what you asked me earlier about why did we do it. Right. So I was responding to that. Right. Yes, we have done it for that purpose, to deal with that.
Because what I was trying to get to the bottom of, like, intentions, right? Do you not trust international institutions, or is it just politics? Is the difference with Israel-Palestine about politics? So, for example, politics on Sudan, politics on a relationship with Russia? Or is it about the fact that you saw all of these differently and decided this is something that we need to be involved in with the international architecture of justice, but the others are not, they don't qualify? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, we saw it differently, and that's why we had to act in that particular manner, to go into the court. And
because, I mean, South Africa directly was asked to arrest Omar al-Bashir, arrest Vladimir Putin, and it didn't. That's the difference.
No, I think there's also a difference. With Omar al-Bashir, yes, there was a court order which could not be executed at the time. With Putin, he never came to South Africa, so we will not have arrested him,
but
because he never arrived.
Yeah, but there wasn't an intention to arrest him, was there?
We have said that we knew of our obligations,
right?
When it comes to international law. We were very clear in all instances, and I've never seen in anywhere in the world where when you want to arrest a criminal, you announce to the people that, hey, that one we're going to arrest him.
So it was a possibility.
No, I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm just saying. We always said we know our obligation.
Right.
Yes. But because of diplomatic persuasions, he never came.
So there's two interesting things going on here, and this is where I bring it back to South Africa. And it's something that was brought up in the conversation I heard you having with students and others here at the university. And one of the values of a great democracy is people speak freely about the problems, which is great. So I've been on the outside, and I see South Africa's moral authority increasing in terms of its courage and its stance on standing up for Palestinian civilians especially. On the other hand, yes, it's election season, and I monitor the media, the conversations, the debates. And in that sense, when it comes to South Africans, especially as we talk about the ANC losing support, there's the complaints of the lack of justice here, of the impunity for criminals, of the fact that you quoted Statistics South Africa, Stats South Africa, SAP's statistics show that there is a less than 20% conviction rate for murder in the country, right? Based on the publicly available stats from the police force as well. So you have an 80% chance of getting away with murder. If it's mass murder, if you kill two or more, there's a 6% conviction rate. So you have a 94% chance of getting away with killing multiple people. And so there are two very separate things going on here. There's a debate about a lack of justice, a lack of law and order. And on the other hand, on the international stage, South Africa rising in credibility. What do you say to that?
Yeah, what I say to that is that the conviction rate in our platforms and systems is it's very high. Rape, almost 74%,
but I mean,
and so forth. Murder, also violent crime, it's also very high.
Under 20% for murder, 6% for mass murder. It's pretty bad.
No, there is a clear pattern of the cases that have been taken through the system properly, with proper investigations and so forth, that there is a high conviction rate. And that is what I said with the students, to say that what we need to fix in our criminal justice system is to kill the opportunity of criminals to commit crime a lot, and they are arrested.
Yeah, but you don't deny those
later.
stats. Those stats are real. They're there, right? I mean,
obviously, I'm referring to that we need to fix,
right,
which emerge from the statistics.
Sure.
That we need to kill that opportunity for someone to commit more crimes, for him or her to be arrested, to be prosecuted,
right, and
to be convicted. That is what will restore confidence in the system. And that's why we have initiated the reforms of the Criminal Procedure Act, which will enhance the entire criminal justice system.
I haven't looked at the details of it, but like 61 guns stolen from the police every month, right? Same set of statistics. More than 1,000 murders in the past few years were from stolen police guns. 44 homicides per 100,000 in the country, so that's gone up in recent years. It compares with the most violent places in the world, more violent than some active war zones. Again, it's the question of, there's a great thing happening at the ICJ, South Africa with its moral standing, but what's happening back home? Isn't justice dwindling back home when you look at these numbers? Wouldn't you say these numbers are outrageous? They're embarrassing?
No.
Why not?
Because there is no license to impunity. What is here is that if you commit the crime and there is evidence that is enabled through the criminal processes of our country, you will definitely be convicted.
So why aren't people being convicted?
That is what we are working on.
But why are they not? Yeah.
To enable both the police force, the NPA, and the entire system to be able to handle the issues related to conviction beyond reasonable doubt. As I've said, you will realize that there has been a decline in terms of the number of police that we have, also in the number of prosecutors we have in the system. And that is what we are adding now to respond to this, including the reform of the criminal justice system as a whole. And that's what I mentioned with regards to the Criminal Procedure Act. That will then enable us to increase the conviction rate, to increase the number of people that participate, and also the quality of the entire process. But it does not mean that it is currently not happening. It's just that sometimes there's no evidence.
But the stats don't lie, right? I mean, hopefully the stats dramatically improve next year or the year after.
Yeah, but the reality is that in any constitutional democracy, conviction must be an outcome of a due process. People must be proven beyond reasonable doubt in our system.
Yeah, but,
so we need
but if your family member was murdered and there's an 80% chance that whoever murdered them won't be caught.
No, but
doesn't instill much trust in the system, does it?
But if there is evidence, there is processes, then the person will be convicted. And that is what is happening in the system.
Minister Ronald Lamola, thanks so much. I've asked you some tough questions, so I'm glad that this is an example of South African democracy at play. Nothing's going to happen to me afterwards, is it?
No. You will still be.
I'm still a South African citizen.
The streets of Joburg.
Thanks. All the best.